r slash RPG horror stories. New die that shows which part of the body was hit. Use it only on crits. DM then crits all night. Halfling Rouge Acrobat, leg cut off. Human Cleric and Party Medic, arm cut off / other hand cut off. Half Orc Barbarian, foot cut off. Warlock decapitated. Game over. RIP Adventurers. My friends and I don't live in the same country, but we've been interested in playing D&D together for a while, so we decided to use the ROLL20 website. Because our group of friends have different schedules, it was going to be only 2 players and me'd meng for them. After creating their characters and playing through a prologue, we got started. The initial setup was simple. A city has had a sudden mass disappearance of corpses from the local cemetery. City guard is too busy with fighting going on outside the city walls to really get to it, so they dispatch some adventurers to deal with it. Enter my 2 friends, an elven sorcerer and a human fighter. The first red flag I got was when, after gathering to listen to the briefing by the captain of the guard and one of the city's nobles, they barely interact with each other unless necessary. Though they are quite close IRL, their characters didn't even ask each other their names. Is not as if they were edgelords or anything, they just didn't talk. After reaching the cemetery, they run into a mercenary that was watching over it. What was supposed to happen was that they would say that the same noble that hired the merc also sent them and he would let them pass. The fighter sucker punches the mercenary. Natural 20. Surprisingly, the merc does not go down instantly. Roll initiative. Fighter and merc get into a fist fight. Both exchange blows until it's the sorcerer's turn. Because the character is supposed to be morally dubious, he decides to try and end it quick by attacking with his starting dagger, instead of using magic. Natural 1. The mercenary judo throws him to the ground. Mercenary then threatens to break his arm if the fighter doesn't stand down. The fighter technically stands down, then proceeds to walk further into the cemetery, but not before using his turn to use message cantrip. Point at the sorcerer and say you're weak. This is either going to be the longest game or the shortest. I play and run games on a play-by-post site that has been around for almost 2 decades. I ran a single Star Wars game on that site for 14 years. After it ended, I had ideas for another Star Wars game but put off running it until I had more time to devote. When that time came, I put up an advertisement seeking interested players. For those unfamiliar, it is common for game masters to make these posts and include a little about the setting, the general feel for the campaign, and what they are looking for in characters. We also include a bit about character creation guidelines and such, but mostly we want to know what the character is like so we can build a cohesive party. I had about 24 interested players, 5 of which were for the title character from The Mandalorian. Not unexpected given the popularity of the show. But the one that stood out most egregiously was as follows, posted in its entirety with spelling errors left in. Character name, Gumby. Species, Game Marine. Class, Scoundrel. Physical description, Gumby is 1.8 meters tall, a fat blob of muscle, with green skin, a face not even his mother could love, and a constant lingering body odor that is far more than unpleasant. Personality, Gumby is a mute character who can understand other species but is unable to communicate except through his data pad. He uses a Dara pad to type simple messages and shows it to people. Gumby is a recluse who spends all of his time repairing the ship and modifying it. He eats all the time, and lives like a slob, but his work speaks for itself. The only thing Gumby loves more than food is the ship. Background, Gumby's family was brutally slaughtered by a group of adventurers and he was sold into slavery. His masters tried to get him to fight, but Gumby refused. He had no will to live anymore. Captain Marek bought Gumby from a slaver, mostly as a pack mule, and was pleasantly surprised that the little monster had a knack for mechanics and modification. Captain Marek asked for some rather peculiar modifications to the ship, and Gumby is still working to fulfill his master's orders. Any female members of the crew will find hidden camera watching them when they get undressed. I passed on that particular offering. Sometimes they make it easy. I'm a uni student, playing my second ever campaign. Group chemistry is great, and the DMS Homebrew Jungle campaign is amazing. But the worst part has to be our NG Firbolg Druid, who I'll call MM, is definitely more knowledgeable about the game systems and is a power gamer pro. But whenever we're not in combat and doing some light RP stuff, M checks out. They whip out their phone and are checking Reddit. It's grinding the non-combat stuff to a halt. Whenever we're thinking about hitting up the pub and we talk to M, he'll just say whatever you guys want and turn back to his phone. While everyone else seems to be investing in the world and the story, he just doesn't care unless he's rolling a shot ton of dice. Our DM hasn't put in a no phones rule, but I think I might ask her to, because this guy is killing my investment in her story. I've been playing a really short time. Like 2 years max. And my DM is a forever DM, so I decided to have a shot and try out DMing. Now this guy is not in this story until later. He's actually been really good when I'd met a quick one shot for him and a few friends. But I'd met for another group I play with. Not all our members could make the session for our main campaign, so we decided on a one shot. Here are the cast. Me, the DM, Steve, the problem child, Ben, the rogue, and Walter, my forever DM friend. I found a one shot that seemed interesting on DMS Guild that I was going to run for another group, but after this I don't think I will. Steve played a halfling barbarian and Ben was a Goliath rogue. They were both at level 4. Now Steve DMS our regular campaign and is a little bit of a control freak, tends to target one player each session to try and kill. Usually our cleric. But is also really railroady and says no to things that don't fall in line with his plan. I had read through the one shot prior to running it, but in the heat of the moment, I forgot a few little parts or missed things which Ben understood. But if I took too long to describe the next part, Steve tried to hurry it along and what's next? And would try to rush me through the campaign. He argued when his rolls didn't achieve the desired effect, argue with me on what loot his 13 ingest evasion check got him. And was dealing an insane amount of damage. To the point of one-shotting the enemies. I started to balance out the health and not have the monsters take the full damage so that Ben would at least get some shots in and so that combat didn't last one round. He did not like that at all. I hadn't checked over their stats because it's a one-shot, who cares? I wish I had. Steve was rolling 4 dice with a great axe, which is insane, and dealing insane amounts of damage. When I questioned him on a feat he said he was going to use. He argued with me and got very defensive about it and huffy when I stopped combat to look it up in the PHB. Turns out the feat was homebrewed and I told him he couldn't have it. He argued with me until Ben stepped in and told Steve to get over it and lose the homebrew. I had told them that they could roll their stats, and use the PHB plus one other book source. No magic items. Steve Turner up with a magic plus 3 great axe. Which I didn't realize until halfway through when he was dealing insane amounts of damage. It really sucked. I thought I was fair with the loot and the balance of the health, but he just kept arguing with me about it. After they left, Walter came home, roommates, and I told him what had happened. He was so angry at how this guy who is a DM would cheat in a game someone else was running. I had already told him a few stories from our regular campaign. Especially the one where we vs an adult dragon at LVL 10 and the DM's PC, they swap who DMS with each new campaign, came into the battle at the last minuet and gave the killing shot along with taking most of the good loot. But this won't deter me from trying again. I still have much to learn, and the second time I DM'd was much better. Walter would only interject if I did make a mistake and gently explain what and how to fix it, which I really appreciated. I'm looking forward to running a book campaign for my group of friends. And you can bet your butt Steve won't be invited.